Yes, we're alive. Okay.
Oh, we're alive.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 280. Each week, we meet here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, and the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. With us tonight, we have David Rosam. David is more of a relic than an SEO. He's a leading internet marketer, a copywriter of 30 odd years, and an SEO copywriter for 10 of those. He's can be found wallowing in the shallows in the southern end of England, the bottom part. David can be found at writingforseo.org.
Or davidrosam.com.
Oh, and davidrosam.com. Thank you, David. Writingforseo.org. It's got a really good ring to it, though. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also a Google top contributor on the AdSense community, and he can be found at wasaweb, wasaweb.net. Head of SEO for Turn River Capital, Micah Fisher-Kirshner, is a regular on the public speaking circuit. He's based on the west coast of the USA, not that far from Silicon Valley. Micah, I know I missed something. What? Oh, that's right. You're also the president of the San Francisco Meetup Group, SEO Meetup Group. Is that it?
Yep, BayAreaSearch.org.
Thank you. BayAreaSearch.org. But moving back to the UK, I think currently you're still in the UK, Sash?
I am indeed.
Okay.
Probably will be until about the end of May.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Sash is a disaster recovery specialist. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google Webmaster community. Sash has been around a long time, proud to call himself an SEO, and as is Tim Capper. He's CEO of OnlineOwnership.com. Tim is also a Google top contributor on the Google My Business community. All right, let's have a look at these questions. The first one, can Google read text from an image? And the answer is no, of course.
So Google can read text and image when it comes to like the functionality, some of the not necessarily capture, but like if you separate program, but it doesn't do that for Google search. So in terms of probably most likely like the resources and time to be able to put all that together is just something that Google doesn't find effective. But you'll see that they can at least do a decent job outside of search.
Thank you, Micah. What are Sash and David Rosam plotting? Okay. Well, I just read the comments there. Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay. Look, I think we can tweak this one. It's not possible, although, as Micah said, Googlebot can understand. Okay. All right, this one from Micah Fisher-Kirshner. What's the value add, if any, for reducing page load time? And it's on updating a business-to-business website from loading content / interaction from 2 to 3 seconds to 1 second. Brackets revenue or lead lift percentage.
With that kind of lift, I would expect to see measurable gains. But I mean, I'm not entirely. But what are you actually asking? Are you just solely on the conversion front, or are you ranking? What are you? Hit me.
The conversion front, I don't expect to see any lift really per se on the, well, not directly on the ranking front. It's more like I've seen studies out there for e-com, I've seen it for mobile, but I don't see too many outside of that. That's why I was like, what about desktop, B2B, things that are not often talked about?
See, it depends largely on your audience. If your audience is after if you've got something your audience is absolutely after, they'll sit there for 6 seconds while the thing loads, and they're not going to give a crap. If you're dealing with a bunch of fickle people, you know, selling feathered skirts or stuff, then chances are, if you haven't got what they want to them in about 3 seconds, they're gone. You know, so, but I mean, if you're like at 3 seconds or under to begin with, then yeah, you're going to see a lift, but I don't think it's going to be that much. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things. It's like, where do you find the balance of how much time and effort do you put to try to get under a certain amount? If you're already at 3 seconds, is that extra second or two going to make enough of a difference if you're not e-com?
I mean, I'm normally happy if I can get it to around 2. Anything more, you know, you can spend your life chasing your tail.
Yeah. I see. Casey Marquis said he's quoting a study, but he said an e-commerce website with a page speed 3 seconds or more yields 22% fewer conversions than an e-commerce website that loads in 1 second. And I can vouch for that. About a year ago, we converted a site from Access to Microsoft SQL Server. And while I was tuning the SQL Server, and that figure of 22%, it was pretty close to that. While I was tuning the SQL Server, and the difference I made a difference of $100 a month in the what we were paying for the resource, but it did get the page load down to sub 1 second, or more or less averaging 1 second, and it literally did make that much difference. I had to set it back a day or two later to see, to prove it to myself that it was actually that much of a difference. And with that, I went to the client and said, "You've got to spend this extra 100." Yeah.
Cool. Good to know.
Okay, let's tweak that. We'll move on. This one from Ashley Brennan's-Fuel. Why is Google picking up my logo instead of my images for my blog recipes? This seems to be the case for every recipe. Who wants to answer an open graph question? What happened to David Roseanne?
I appear to have gone.
He's back.
Most commonly, exactly. See, David Kutcher's has already kind of nailed it there in the answers. Most commonly, it's because logo will be set as featured image unless you specify something else, and at that point in time, it'll just show up across the board. So I would say check your featured images, check what you've set, and then specify a different featured image for each recipe. Also, are you putting together blog recipes, or is this about cooking? Sorry, German humor.
Germans have humor?
Actually, we're not supposed to. I bought my sense of humor in a backstreet shop in Soho. I'm not sure it's working that well.
I'm not sure that was humor, says. All right. Okay, so I think it was established that I don't think we have all the comments here, but I'm fairly sure it was established that it was an open graph thing. He hadn't set a featured image. All right, let me tweet that. We'll go to the next. We've got 19 questions tonight, and so far we've covered 3. All right, Idris Mohammed. It's titled, "Can you guys tell me the procedures to follow in order to become an expert in SEO?" Serious question deserves a serious answer.
I wouldn't say there's really any
first.
I mean, we all have different paths of how you get there. Myself, I started in the agency world, learned a lot pretty quickly that way. Yeah, I worked on a variety of clients in that regard, and then I went in-house to learn how to do SEO at scale, and got to manage a team as a part of that, and just kind of leveraged a lot of the fortune that I had from kind of my agency days of working on well-known websites. You know, consistently staying up to date, reading kind of known bloggers or known as other SEOs, going to conferences, networking with people, getting friendly with others in the industry. A lot of that kind of helped to provide that time and knowledge that I was able to essentially use throughout my career. I think that basically the ability of them working for a few years agency, and then going in-house and working at scale really helped to provide the ability to really, you know, try and fail or try and succeed in both of those, to help provide an understanding of a lot of SEO. And I think that's kind of what helped to allow me to get, you know, fairly good at what I do. But that's just one path. I'm sure each of us here have had different ways along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's really no substitute for experience. I think there Michael Martinez makes a very good point when he lists all the resources, you know, Webmaster Guide and SEO Starter Guide and whatnot, as a starting point. But as such, until you actually get your hands on some sites to actually do the job with, and until, as Micah said, you try and fail and try and succeed, that's really it. You know, it's very much a learn by experience field. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I came in from a rather different angle from from Micah, but maybe the same. He's technical, but I came in for the agency. But you know, back in the horse and cart days, when steam presses were what printed our brochures and handouts. Or at least that's what the octogenarian Jim Rowe will tell you.
Did they have electricity in your day, David, when you were starting out?
No, just the horses going round and round and round. No, I was a copywriter for years. I started off in publishing. I edited books. I wrote books. I was a journalist for a while on trade papers, technical trade papers. Then I went into PR. Then I went into advertising. And then for ages, I was a freelance copywriter and got into the web very, very early on. Not quite sure why, but I did. And then I somehow got this idea of being an SEO copywriter, but at that stage in the UK, no one had ever heard of SEO copywriting, and no one was interested. So eventually, I started to get some projects about that were SEO copywriting, but I started hanging out with loads of techies. There are just hundreds of techies around here in the Badlands surrounding Brighton, and I started to pick up the technical part. Although I still don't sell myself as a technical SEO. And I think that's a point here that's I don't know if anyone else has touched on. I keep being thrown out of this hangout by the Google bouncers, but anyway, if it hasn't been touched on, I think there are lots of different flavors of SEOs. There are those who are a techie from lots and lots of different angles. There are those people maybe have come from a development type background, and there are those who have come in from the content angle, and I think those of us who are very old, Jim, would have a different view of what's happened in SEO than those who are somewhat younger. I don't really have any. Oh, yeah, Mike is somewhat younger, isn't he? Yes, we'll he's got his shorts on. Who probably joined this industry once it actually started up. So you feel your way through. You pick up bits here and there. You do it. You do the projects as they happen. If you don't have the skills, you find out what those skills are, or you find out someone who does have the skills and buy them beer until they tell you exactly how to do it.
I actually have a question. In your career as a journalist, is it true that your first job was covering the Jack the Ripper murders?
No, I just missed out on those, but it was just a really big regret. It was big story back then.
Yes.
But I was a late starter in journalism anyway.
Well, look, I'd have this message for Idris Muhammad. It's a matter of being right, a matter of studying and studying and studying and always being right. Nothing shortens a career more than being wrong. But I can tell you the history. I met a young guy about 16 years ago. There was a hotel chain that had got penalised. And in those days, I had some directory sites and travel sites and so on. And so this hotel chain, because their site was just disappeared off the face of the earth, penalised. They're paying us good money to send them traffic. Anyway, I first met this guy. He was called in, and the site was totally tanked. And his job, even though he didn't know much about SEO, was to revitalise that site, which he did. To be honest, when I talk to him, he makes my eyes glaze over because he continually studies, and he's just on a different plane. I'm not going to mention him or his company because he's not supposed to be public. But I will say that by being right constantly, year after year after year, and studying and getting ahead of the game, a big lesson for him was not to do anything that is going to tank the site. Having that hotel chain site tanked, he didn't do it, but he fixed it. And that's the mantra that he has been preaching ever since, to the point where at the moment he's an Australian flying to the US, and he's head of SEO for a company spending something like $1 billion a year in PPC. Yeah, so if you continually study Idris, the sky is the limit. Anyway, let me tweet that. And let's go to the next. This is from Dimpy Roy. How to recover lost social shares and comments after switching to HTTPS. It's titled. He went on to ask, "Hi guys," he said, "I'm a new member of this community, and I have a question regarding SEO HTTPS migration. Has any member of this community recently migrated a blog into HTTPS? And if so, how did he or she recover lost social shares and comments? Please help."
Well, your comments are on page, so they wouldn't have gone anywhere. Unless you mean like comments in actual social, sharing.
See, my question here would be, what do you mean by lost social shares? Because if you're HTTPS migrating, you should basically 301 everything to where you're going. So any link and any share and anything that's been done across social platforms should basically be repointed.
I think
so. I remember this issue.
I'm not sure I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah, so the issue on this was, God, I remember running into this issue 4 years ago. Facebook didn't have a good setup so that when you would migrate a page to a new URL, regardless, HTTP, HTTPS, or to just a generally new URL, you lost all your social share numbers. So at the time, there was no mechanism to, if you had a very, very, very successful or popular product in social and Facebook, and you went and you swapped it out to HTTPS, completely disappearing, it would reset to 0.
All right. Okay.
That's what he's referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on what you're using in your actual blog or whatever. I've recently only just switched over my site to HTTPS. I use, for the social sharing, I use Add This, and that's retained all the numbers. So I guess it depends what you're using or how you've implemented the social sharing buttons on your site.
Yeah, I think there was something that either like Facebook or some others had basically implemented to fix that issue. I just don't know offhand what it was. Back then, one of the things we were trying to do was to essentially hack around the system to like basically show the new page, but then the social share would just reference the older page, so that we would keep it temporarily until the new system either they fixed it or the amount of social shares would surpass the old one. That was kind of our way to like try to handle that. But I think today they've mostly fixed it, but I just don't know what the technical structure to get that set up to work is. So.
Yeah, and another consideration is how many times have your entities been shared? I mean, if that number's huge, then you might want to think about, could I transfer that over? But if they aren't particularly big, does it really matter?
Yeah, and of course, social shares aren't necessarily a big loss. All right, let's move on to the next, unless somebody else wants to add something. Okay. Surjit Das, he said he's confused about mobile first indexing, and he said, hi, Jim. He expected me to answer. Don't do that, Surjit. Anyway, he said, I'm a little bit confused about mobile first indexing. If my site is mobile responsive, should I be concerned about it? A number of good people responded. And guys, would you like to add to those responses?
Straight from the horse's mouth, which is where I've got it, it's like if your site is responsive and it's all behaving properly, there's nothing you need to worry about or do or any other action you need to take. Just make sure it is responsive. At that point in time, you're done.
Yep. Thank you, Saz. I think that's enough. Let's tweet that. And we'll move on to the next. All right, Antonio Torino asked a question titled, how badly are my rankings going to be affected when swapping from HTTP to HTTPS? Antonio said, hello everyone, I'm new to the group. I'm curious, how badly are my rankings going to be affected when performing this swap?
As badly as your implementation gets to be. So if you do a bad implementation, your rankings will take that hit. If you do everything right, you should be fine.
Yep. Anybody else? Well, that's easy. We can go on to the next. Edvinus Posniakis asked the question, can you tell me specific reasons why link exchange is bad? I like Ryan Jones's answer. It's not always bad.
Yeah, the initial setup for why Google did that was really about abuse and scale. That was the initial reasoning for why you saw link exchanges called out. It wasn't necessarily that a link exchange in of itself is bad. Owning the same property as mentioned, you know, highlighting your friend's blog and them in turn highlighting you, not an issue. But if you're starting to really try to abuse some of the factors and scale that out, that's where Google's like, okay, those are the situations where this is seen to be a violation of Google's guidelines.
Yep. Thank you, Micah. Anybody else? Right, so our next one, number 9 on our run list. What's better, exact-match.com or ExactMedscom, and why?
It ain't.
I'm just reference my example.
Yeah, that's clever. Experts Exchange uses a hyphen for a specific reason. And why is that, Micah?
Because if you don't use the hyphen, people can read it differently, and that difference in reading is quite a bit different. Not exactly what they do, and has interestingly different connotations. So,
oddly enough, I first wrote about this kind of thing, the horribly misinterpreted domain, back in 2006. You know, and I mean, I've picked up on it at times since then, and it's really amazing how people are still doing exactly the same things and stepping into it horribly on an almost daily basis with their naming. It's funny, I mean, but it does make me wonder about how single-minded and unflexible some people actually are.
yeah. Well, you set something up and you have that in mind, and you just forget to step back and re-look at what that might be, as seen as otherwise. And it's not, to be honest, it's not just the domain itself. I mean, there's a common trope every time the Olympics come along with the new updated logo for whatever city it's in, and people make fun of it because it looks like something else entirely that is not really safe for work. So
totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, then again, I've seen it done on purpose and carried off very well. When you look at Penn Island, and if you spell that, you'll totally, come up with something different. They have utterly exploited the misconception, and they've built a successful business around it.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to the next. I think that's a good answer for Dennis. All right, this one from Ryan Logan: is updating the ping list still a thing? I've been doing this as part of my checklist when launching. Since it only takes a second, I'm guessing there is no harm. Just curious, thanks. I'd say it's a waste of time. Anyone disagree with that?
Nope.
Yes, although if you run WordPress, it's got something in its entrails that pings automatically. But I was only wondering the other day why it was still there.
Yep. Right, let's call that an answer for Ryan, and we'll move on to the next. This one from Neal Cheeseman: is there a value in displaying social share numbers? Yes or no, and why? Everyone wants to know why today.
Why is that?
Why do you ask?
What do you define as value?
Anything over.
Is it worth your time?
Well, if you have numbers, then there's value in it because people go, "Ooh, look at how popular this is." Whereas if you don't have numbers, there's no value because they'll go, "Nobody cares about this." So,
yeah, it is. It's a it's a classic vanity metric, isn't it? Although, you know, I think I might just be tempted to display them if they were suitably huge, so to speak.
I suppose the only thing is that it could add to loading time. If you have so many different social media networks on your site, but I think that's minimal.
That's true. All right, but on balance, it's a vanity thing. It doesn't really do anything for you, and nobody likes to show off. All right, let's go to the next. This one from Nicholas Johansson. What is the best practice building links here? Nicholas said, hey, I have my first dumb question. I have a site in 2 languages, www.yogaticket.com/en/se. What is the best practice in building links here? Right now, /en has a strong URL rating in Ahrefs. I'm wondering if it has any significance. URL rating in Ahrefs. I mean, all of these metrics, they look good. They don't mean it. You can't cache them. You can't cache them at the bank.
Okay.
I don't think you can exchange them for gold anymore. Anyway. Maybe as I've made noises, maybe I want to have a go at answering this. What was the question again?
I'm not sure how it.
I do know. Thank you, Chief. I was just playing on my usual derangement halfway through this hangout. Anyway, the usual answer applies. Don't build links. Publish great content and get people linking to you, because Google may come along and slap a disapproval rating on you. So think about what you're putting on there. Think about who you're trying to appeal to. And try not to get caught up in Ahrefs or Moz's or Uncle Tom Cobley's rating for your site. Google doesn't use them, and Google is the one who you're trying to appeal to, and they'll be using their Google ratings rather than their Moz ratings or their Ahrefs ratings. Get good content on there.
One thing I've noticed is that I can't access the Swedish version of the site. I type in /se, goes to the English version. So I think that's an issue. It's not directly related to the question, but I don't seem to be able to go to the Swedish version of the page. Probably because I'm based in the UK, or perhaps because the browser is set to English. I don't know, but I think that's something that needs to be fixed.
It's probably checking your IP address, I imagine.
Yeah. I could well be a Swedish speaker living in the UK. So.
Yes, but we're going to get rid of you soon. Brexit is coming.
I had a similar situation the other day. I tried to look at a .com site because somebody was pointing out some feature of it to me, but it kept forcing me back to .com.au, which is the Australian version. Very, very an annoying user experience.
Thank you, Tim. It's actually /SV, not SE. Because SE is the country code, isn't it? Whereas the SV is the language code.
Uh-huh.
Or something
So
like that.
I think the thing is, there's guys. So you're saying about building links, right? Well, one's in English and one's in Swedish. Yeah. So now what we do is we build links that are, the English goes to the English. If you build Swedish links, they go to the Swedish side. It's all about context and relevance. You're not going to have an English yoga demonstration going to the Swedish side. You're not going to have a Swedish one going to the English. It's all about context. So just, not rocket science here. If you're advertising, if you're marketing, in something that's, in a Swedish section, you're naturally going to link to your Swedish language site. Just think laterally here. Yeah. End of. Next question.
Well, I just wanted to congratulate this guy on a great job with his social media, his Facebook page, excellent. Instagram, everything is just done perfectly.
I'd like to congratulate Tim on his Swedish accent.
That's not Swedish. I think that was Russian Yiddish, Micah, wasn't it?
I think a Russian speak Swedish.
We're losing Micah at the moment. He's got to go and get Elijah out of bed and off to school. And
see you, Micah.
Get into that. See you later, mate. All right. There's the Swedish side. I tell you what he might mean. This guy. I've just put in the chat. His SE. That's Sweden, is it?
Yes.
Now, I wonder if what he's asking is it okay to link between the two? Because if that's what he means, he is linking in the footer links. There's nothing wrong with that, and he won't ever get pinged just for linking two sites together. But he'd be better off linking with anchor text in the body text of his site. Does that sound like a reasonable comment? No? Yes?
Yes, it does sound like a reasonable comment. I'll suck up to you if you like, Jim.
Nobody has to suck up to me.
I agree with me.
But if you click through from the English version to visit us at a studio in Uppsala, what happens is that that's in Swedish, even if you go from the English version of the yogaticket.com/en, and you see the one with Ganesha. Then it goes to the uppsalahotyoga.se site, and that's in Swedish, even though there's an English version of it, or not actually. So that might be something worth working on.
Yeah, the deeper I dig, the better it looks. This guy must have a team working on this. All right, have we covered this one?
Think so.
Okay. Congratulations on a great site, Nicholas. I think that's absolutely fabulous.
Why am I looking up at the ceiling now?
I'm not looking up the ceiling. I'm actually looking at the top of the the big screen on the iMac, whereas down here is the Chromebook.
Right.
Just one. Just one quick thing on that yoga. I mean, the Uppsala hot yoga. Your aggregated rating in there, mate. It's running right across your site in your structured data markup. That's incorrect. You got that completely wrong. They won't ever show like that. It's meant to apply to the product or the service or the whatever was actually rated. You can't have it running site-wide. It'll never display. You'll never get your stars displaying. It has to be added specifically to the product or service that was reviewed. All right, just so you know that.
Thank you, Tim. All right, let's move on to the next. This one from JL Faverio. How many different ways can you optimize an image?
Well, I better count these.
I like Steve Wederman's answer. He came up with 10 different ways.
Actually, reading through it, yeah, sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think you can add to that.
Okay, let's call that an answer. We'll move on. All right, this one from, I've got a 404 showing up there. I don't know what that's causing that. Anyway, Andres Philippe Cavaria Haneo asks how to treat product videos from the manufacturer in terms of SEO for e-commerce. Andres said, he went on to say, should they be blocked from indexing to avoid duplicate content, or should they be optimized for keywords?
Well, the video, the only way Google's going to know that's a duplicate is if it's not, it won't be treated as a duplicate even if you share it, because that's the whole point of sharing a video, like YouTube. What you can do quite easily is just copy the video, add your own introduction into it, which will be like, I don't know, so your brand name, are the European sellers for, and then you fade the video in, and then that gets saved onto your own YouTube brand channel, and then that gets what's embedded into your site. But it's not going to be viewed as a duplicate. I mean, the whole point of, sharing content or embedding a video with things, it's not going to be seen as duplicate. But I would certainly make it your own. You should be allowed to, depending on obviously what your contract is with the with the brand. But normally they're pretty cool with you using it, but adding your own intro in with you as the retailer of that brand, and then you fade into their video. As long as you credit them in it, they're normally cool.
Also, I mean, if you're actually embedding the thing, the video itself isn't going to make a blind difference to how the actual page that you're embedding it on is perceived. So there it becomes a question of of on-page content, you know?
Yep. All right, let's move on to the next. That 404 is annoying me. Dragomir Victor. He wants to know, he says, is it still working to create a Google My Business review URL pre-filled with 5 stars? I tried and it doesn't give me the 5 stars pre-filled.
Yeah, I think you'll find that you're going to have to work your own way around it, but you're not going to be able to create via Google My Business, because what review system in the world is going to, obviously you can, but that's deceptive. It's deceptive, and Google My Business, if you're using direct URL, is not going to allow you to do that. So, you can go and try use other platforms and try and work a way around, but, it's deceptive practice. Sending them direct link with that already pre-filled with 5 stars. People don't realize, they write the review and boom, they got 5 stars. No, mate, that's just deceptive. You won't be able to make that happen on a Google business.com URL. You'll have to use some of the site or whatever that, but you won't be able to on a business.com site URL.
Yep, that sounds reasonable to me. Well, let me tweet that. Let's move on to the next. This one from, I'm not sure what his name is, so I can't read it here. But anyway, how to get backlinks or how to attract new visitors. The eternal question. Hi, does anyone have any experience or idea how to optimize a site that sells newsletters for real estate agents? How to get backlinks or how to attract new visitors?
I really don't know what Naveen posted there. It looks like he just took a flipping
a cut and paste.
Yeah. That's a cut and paste. Yeah, totally.
So I wish I knew what newsletters were for estate agents. Is that something that they can add their add their listings in for that month? Or you explain a little bit more. I could probably throw a few ideas with you. I mean, I work with a couple of agents, and I could throw you some ideas, but I have no idea what sells newsletters. I mean, you gave me a bit more idea in the chat, and then I'll jump in over the week and throw you some ideas there.
Yeah, same here, because I mean, I did quite a bit of real estate SEO, and there's at least 3 different newsletter types that my guys always get approached with. And one is the listings, one is the kind of standard property news that the agent can then, rebrand as. And it very much depends on what you're actually selling as to what approach you would take to try and up the numbers.
Yeah.
All right. So if you'd like to add in some more detail to your question on the Dumb SEO Questions community on Facebook, then Tim has undertaken to pop in. Hello, Richard Hearn.
Yeah. Good dog.
How are you, mate? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Looks like you've caused a 404 there, Richard. Only joking, mate. It's been there for a while. All right. Dawn Anderson, this is not really a question. It ends with a question mark, but it's more of a rant. Dawn said, "Is it me or are people getting utterly obsessed with links again?" I think people have just have never stopped being obsessed with links, and rightly so. Anyway, shall we comment on this? Does anyone want to give us a comment on this?
Well, say for the last year, there's something that I've actually noticed is moving into the mainstream since it's become obvious that Penguin has had its balls cut off, and that is people with increasing frequency buying expired domain names that have some sort of inbound link profile, throwing makeshift shoddy WordPress installations and linking the proverbial crap out of things back to their home base or to a secondary site. Most recently, I ran across an LA injury lawyer who was really abusing the whole expired domain thing massively, and so there seems to be a movement of getting obsessed with links again, since it's become plain that Penguin ain't doing his job anymore, and that you can once again get away with stuff without having to be contrite later.
Although Penguin's been dead for a long time, that we held the funeral here on Dumb SEO Questions, so.
I wasn't there for that.
The other interesting thing about the expired domains is the GDRP is coming in May, and it looks like a lot of the whois information is going to be cut off. Okay, Google is a registrar, but it's going to make, I'd imagine it could make things a bit more difficult.
Oh, aye.
Is domaining becoming more useful, Richard?
How do you mean? In what way?
Well, I mean, is the price of, say, I noticed that the price of a 4-letter domain is cheaper now than it was a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Is that across the board?
No, I think it depends on certain types of names. Like, there's always really good names, their value is going up, but there were names that were known as the chips, which were very popular in China for a long while, and that demand has waned a bit. But I mean, I don't really. My interest in domains has nothing to do with SEO. I mean, there were maybe 10 years ago, I probably did have quite a few domains that I was looking at for SEO purposes, but nowadays it's just for like branding, marketing potential. That's all. But the prices have gone down slightly in the last year, 18 months, but they're still reasonably good.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next. Matt Swanson said, I redid a website and now Google will not index the new website pages. Okay, I'm not going to read this one out, but he got a notice from Google. It looks to me like he hasn't fixed the problem.
Let's have a look.
He should probably request his own pages with the Googlebot user agent and just see what happens.
Yeah. I see Lisa Brown had a look at it. She said it's got a meta no index on every page. Get this removed. Okay, we can move on from this. It's been adequately answered in the community. Let me go to the next. This one from Doc Mark Palmer. And he said, can you explain the pros and cons of using Google AMP? He said, thanks for the great SEO help. Well done, guys. He said, can you explain the pros and cons of using Google AMP for the index and core pages of my site and Bootstrap 3 and 4 in folders that core pages link to for micro applications like blog, appointment scheduler, contact page, etc. He said, I want to benefit from the AMP speed and be in Google's preferential treatment group, but I need to have a blog, appointment scheduler, and survey tool that AMP will not validate. Do I need to exclude all pages and folders in robots text, or will Google be okay with some strategy you might explain? All discussions welcome, Doc. See, Michael Martinez said that Google's preferential treatment group. I've never heard of such a group. I didn't know there was.
He's sort of arguing over semantics there. Of course, AMP pages are put into the news carousel and other pages aren't. So I mean, there's preferential treatment, if any.
Yeah.
It's interesting because AMP was never created really, or AMP was initially created as a tool to use for articles, and of course that meant that most news sites were the original sites to take up on AMP. They added it to all their news articles, but they had to find some other way to serve up their like category pages, or as this guy says, is micro applications. Google doesn't really care actually. It's fine, you know. You can have both, and they'll work fine together. It's just a matter of the internal linking and how you handle serving those pages with canonical and rel alternate, and whether you do it right. And you can set AMP to be the canonical as well, and that's fine as well for Google. And if you really want to, you can actually use AMP for category pages and for everything else. It's just there are certain things that are much more difficult to do with AMP.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on. I've got a feeling yes, it's that time again. It's thank you for watching, and I see that we still have eyes watching us, and we thank you. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again, but for now, it's good night and